Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. We broke down that interesting video discussing salvation with some young theologians, some pretty well-known, such as Wes Huff. And so if you haven't got to check out that episode yet, go ahead and watch that one from yesterday and let me know what you think. And let's see here. On Wednesday night, we're going to get back to studying Abraham, finding the biblical truth. And I'm going to take a very different approach to what we're going to be studying. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. So many preachers, I think, get the Genesis 15:6 verse wrong. That's because they just focus on that, and then they do eisegesis, and they jump straight to the New Testament. And I don't do that. I'm going to take it within the context of everything that we've read before. I'm going to take it in the context of everything that comes afterward, and so you're going to get my thoughts there on all that. And the good news is, as we have finally, I think, detected the microphone issue that's going on, you should get good quality audio and not have to worry about it. You should. All right, I'm hoping that's going to be the case. And so hopefully you can join us tomorrow night at around 6:30 Central Time. My Bible study class can be a little bit slow to get there, but we should get started around then. Let's see here some other things that we have, just to let all of you know, keeping you in the loop here. If you go to markbazeministries.org, we also have a new Sunday morning Sunday school series. Part 1, the Gospels. We did have some audio issues, but if you're a real trooper, I think you can get through. But if you go ahead and go over here to markbazeministries.org, you'll see we have the Book of Acts, Part 2, that's up here. So if you want to go to Mark Baze's website, which is me, I don't know why Mark Baze is speaking about himself in the third person, but you can watch the second session on the Book of Acts and just get a good overall guideline to the Greek Scriptures. Tell me what you think, some things you agree with, some things maybe you don't agree with. And let's see here, any other announcements that I want to get to in particular. I do want to get the show started off before I overlook, or before I get to other things, let me put it that way. And that is going to be, I got a very encouraging email, and I'm going to go ahead and share it. I actually got it a few weeks ago, so shame on me for not immediately sharing it, but there's just all sorts of things that go on, and I end up getting distracted. But I got it from Sydney. I don't know if Sydney's with us today. I haven't looked and seen who all has checked in. But I preached on intellect over emotion a while back, and just making the case that when it comes to the biblical case for persuading men, that you've got to start with the Bible and not make the emotional appeal that so many churches do today. And after I preached that sermon, I got an email from Sydney, and I'm going to find it. I just can't quite remember how far back I need to go in order to find that email. So I'm going to do a search for it in the my emails here. And here it is. I want to read this to you. So Sydney sent this email to me and said, Mark, after listening to your Sunday sermon, I had an opportunity to put it into practice. On the plane ride home, I sat next to a Muslim man. Instead of going straight to the Romans Road, which is kind of, hey, here's the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Romans Road, but it's very similar to the, ABCs of becoming a Christian and testimony and things like that. It's standard format practice, right? It requires appealing to your own personal experience to some degree. That's not what Sydney did, though. Now, he did not follow the brochure, okay? Here's what he did. He followed the Bible. And then he said, I remembered your sermon and tried to reason with him, because that's exactly what Paul did. Whether he was reasoning with the Jews or he was reasoning with the Gentiles, he reasoned with them. He used clear, simple, concise, logical arguments to make the case for the gospel. Sydney says, I think it went well. We left as friends and traded contact info. And he said, pray for Salif. So, you and I, keep Salif in your prayers. Sydney's friend that he made, hopefully they're able to remain in touch, remain in contact. And Sydney, that's one of the best emails I've ever received. I've received some very encouraging emails from people, but that one right there may be my very favorite, just because it tells me that some of the work that we're doing is actually having a real effect in other people's efforts to share the word of God and share salvation, and you're implementing it as the word says. You reasoned with him. And I would love to know exactly what that conversation was like, kind of how you started it and how that proceeded. But reasoning as opposed to, here, let me give you my testimony, Romans Road type approach, which I'm not saying nobody's never been saved by that approach, but what I am saying is I think the biblical approach is, as you said, you reasoned with him. So Sydney, thank you so much for that encouraging email. Really gets me fired up. All right. Now, one other major announcement that I am very excited to share with you. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this pulled up for you, because it is concerning tomorrow's episode. And we are going to be having a gubernatorial candidate for the state of Oklahoma as a guest on the show tomorrow. This is the first guest I've ever really going to have on Shields and Arrows. We kind of had Joel and them from Florida with us a little bit, but this is going to be my first one. I have been listening to him speak for some time. I've been impressed. I think he is a constitutionalist. I think that he is all about state sovereignty, and also he is a believer in the Word of God, and you can tell it's not lip service. You can tell it's not surface level. Now, maybe we can convince him of being a right divider, but I'm going to take a strong, convicted man wanting to glorify and honor the Lord. So we are going to be having tomorrow Mr. Jake Merrick for governor. He is going to come on the show. He's going to be a guest for us. I'm going to have some questions for him, and I'm sure that you can ask some questions as well. I don't know quite how long we can have him. I hope to have him on for potentially the entire show, but we'll certainly have him on for a little while. Principle over politics. His position is Oklahoma first. I think he's an upstanding person. You can see his family there. He is from Yukon, Oklahoma. And so I know that not everybody who watches the show is from Oklahoma, but here's the thing. I think you'll find it encouraging nonetheless, and what you may find is that Jake Merrick is going to have some good thoughts for your states as well, because I think what he wants for Oklahoma, he would want for other states, and it'll give you an idea of maybe what to look for in politicians. And I've told you, I've been trying to make the effort to stop just being obsessed with the national, the federal politics, and start paying more attention to local politics. And so I'm very excited to have Jake on the show tomorrow. Everything is looking like he'll still be able to join us. I hope that you're looking forward to us getting to have a discussion. I'm not considering it so much an interview, but a discussion for you to get to know him, and especially for those of you who are Okies who are going to be watching this. Here's a potential candidate for the governor's race. And so very excited about that. I think it'll be a fun time. All right. Now, let me say one more thing. I didn't get to the email, but I know that our friend Toby reached out to me, and he was asking me about the possibility of being a more regular guest on the Grace Life podcast with Joel and them out of Florida. What's going to happen in the next month? And I need to start talking to you and getting you prepared for this. My oldest son is going to be starting school. And while that doesn't mean I have to change the Shields and Arrows schedule, it is an opportunity to do so, because then I could rearrange some things a little bit. What I've thought about doing is possibly moving to an afternoon show. And if that's in fact what we decide to do, we could potentially change things up and maybe open up the schedule to be able to do guest appearance on the Grace Life podcast more often, and then doing an afternoon show for Shields and Arrows. Shields and Arrows isn't going anywhere. It's just instead of maybe going live at 9:30, maybe it would be something along the lines of 12:30. So maybe catching some of you during that lunch break, or just in the early afternoon. So let me know your thoughts on that, and we'll see how some of that can play out. Now, let's see. One thing I want to get to before we jump into discussing dating the resurrection, that's the title of the episode today. There are some interesting things going on in Texas, and I do care about Texas because Texas is close to us, and because we do live in a republic, and the federal government is quite large, too large in my opinion. It does kind of matter what goes on in these other states. Right now, Texas is working on trying to redraw its districts. Now, this is voted on by state politicians, but it will affect the federal representatives, right? So the representatives from Texas. And the midterms are going to be coming up in 2026. It's going to be a very big midterms. They always are. The major thing is, are the Republicans going to be able to hold on to the Senate? Okay, I don't know if they will be able to or not, but the major question is the House. Can the House be maintained? And very often the party that's in power will lose the one, if not both, houses of Congress. That does serve, whether we like it or not, as a very good gridlock. It keeps things from getting done. So a lot of times presidents can get a number of things done for those first 2 years of their term, and then they're shut down pretty hard after that. And then they'll lean on executive orders, which oftentimes are not great. It is what it is. Now, here is the interesting thing. If Texas redraws the districts, they could potentially pick up another 5 seats for the House of Representatives. And that would be quite a major thing to pick up 5 more. Now, Texas has been gaining increasingly in population, people moving to Texas from California and from other places. And they have the right to do redistricting if they want. Now, obviously, the word that you would think of is gerrymandering. Texas is gerrymandering, dividing up the districts in such a way to benefit one political party over another. And the Texas House Democrats are calling foul, and they, in an effort to prevent the redistricting, they fled the state. This is from the Daily Wire. Texas House issues arrest warrants for rogue Democrats who fled to blue states, and that's exactly what happened. Now we'll see if these arrest warrants are going to be legitimate and how they'll be upheld, and I don't know all the details there that's going to happen. But that's the reality, the facts on the ground right now. The Democrats, the way the rule works, there has to be, I think, 2/3 of the state representatives present for the voting to proceed, and there's just enough Democrats, thanks to Houston and Dallas and San Antonio, there's just enough Democrats to be able to leave and shut down government operations for the time. And obviously this is problematic. It's like they're neglecting their duties. They're crying that this is not fair. The funny thing is, a lot of these Democrats left and went to Illinois. And Illinois is one of the most gerrymandered states that exist. There's a reason why you never get Republicans in Illinois, because they have redrawn the districts to the point where you just can't. You can't do it. The blue, heavily populated urban areas dominate every single district the way they have it drawn up. New York's the same way. Michigan is to some degree gerrymandered, and the current governor, I can't remember lady, Gretchen Whitmer, I believe, the Michigan governor, she is threatening to gerrymander Michigan in response. Here's my thoughts. Do states not have state sovereignty or not? It frustrates me that Illinois has gerrymandered their state. It frustrates me that New York has, because obviously that affects the federal level, but they're their own states. And the truth is, if Illinois is tired of the terrible Democrat policies, then quit voting Democrat. If the people are still inflicting this wound upon themselves, well, they're inflicting the wound upon themselves. More Republicans will leave Illinois. Florida will get more electoral votes. And also gain in population. Illinois will lose population, so Florida will gain House representatives. It's kind of to a degree, it's a self-correcting problem. It may take some time. It may take a few years, a few decades even, but eventually the problem self-corrects. That's why New York is lowering and dropping in its population, and Texas and Florida are increasing, and that's just going to help them get more electoral votes, which will help Republicans. If Illinois can gerrymander its state into oblivion, why can't Texas do the same? Those are my thoughts. And so if the representatives for the state of Texas, talking about the state representatives, want to vote to redraw districts, isn't that their prerogative? Isn't that what they're allowed to do? And so the Democrats here crying foul and complaining and saying that, well, this is not fair. I don't see how it's not fair. This has been going on for a long time. So it'd be very exciting to see the possibility of Texas picking up 5 more seats for the House of Representatives on the federal level. Would be a very, very good thing. As a matter of fact, I was looking at here's a K4 Oklahoma news site. They've got a few things, 5 things to know about this matter of Texas political showdown. One of the interesting things is that this has happened before. Okay, this isn't the first time, says here, that Texas Democrats, who have long been a minority in the state chambers, have turned to this strategy to try and to stall a particularly controversial plan that state Republicans were proposing. They fled in 2003 and 2021. I remember actually in 2021 when they did that. So the good news is, I would imagine Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas Republicans knew this was coming. They knew they were going to do it, so they're probably getting the process started early enough to get all these shenanigans out of the way so that eventually the voting can be done, the redistricting is done. And so that's a good thing. Texas GOP wants to move forward regardless. They are determined to get this done. I don't think it's really going to set them back. If I was to guess, Texas will be able to draw their redistricts. Another interesting thing is the potential penalties and even arrests, because they are refusing to do their job. You're voted to carry out a role in government, and if you refuse to do your job, is this not a prosecutable offense to some degree? Interesting things. Groups aligned with Beto O'Rourke and others were giving funds to Texas Democrats to stay in D.C. Sounds like bribery to me. And so very interesting to see how all this will play out, how long it will actually last. But there is a very interesting thing that I think is going on when you consider Texas, when you consider Florida, even Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been gaining in population as well. At what point will the census really come into effect? Ron DeSantis has talked about this before. Listen, we need to have our census updated, because the truth is these red states are carrying a lot more representation than what they did previously. And it could have been enough to sway some important elections and to determine who controls the houses of Congress. So obviously not the Senate, but with the House of Representatives. And all that to be said, very interested to see how the Texas issue plays out. Let Texas do what Texas wants to do. Don't get upset. Let the states carry out their rights. If Texas wants to redraw their districts, let them redraw their districts. Illinois did it, so I don't know why they want to complain. And the idea of Texas becoming a blue state, it's been a long time dream of the Democrats. And the truth is, the Democrats have New York, they have California, and then Texas is the next one. Well, Texas actually is bigger than New York, I believe. But the point is, you have the big three, and Democrats control two of the big three. If you were able to get Texas to go blue, then I mean that seals the deal. There is no Republican winning anymore. And there's been all this talk. Oh, will it go purple? 2020. Texas is holding strong. The one reason why Texas is holding strong is there's a lot of small towns in Texas. A lot of them. Are they spaced out? You betcha. But they are there, and they are conservative. Another interesting thing is when you go to Texas and you go to the city, from where I'm sitting right now, okay, I could hop in my truck and I could be in downtown Dallas in about an hour and a half. All right. It's not far from me at all. And the interesting thing when you go to Texas, one of the groups of people, the ethnicities that you often see, are actually Asian American, and I am convinced that a lot of Asians in Texas are not all that liberal. When I think about the principles that they have, a lot of times Asians are converted to Christianity. A good number of them are. Now, some of them may still be practicing whatever, Buddhism or any number of other religions that are in the East, but many of them are Christian. A lot of them are Filipino. Filipinos are largely Catholic, and they're very Americanized. When I shoot pistol matches, and I've got another one coming up, not this weekend, but the next one. When I go there will be a number of Asian Americans in these pistol matches. Sounds to me like they're very much Americanized. And so I don't think Texas is going to flip blue anytime soon. And I think one of the major hopes the Democrats had was giving, mass amnesty to all these illegals and getting them on the voter rolls, and then they could vote in the Texas elections and sway things. And no, not so fast. So I think Texas is going to hold strong. I had been in previous times very doubtful about Texas, but now I'm growing all the more confident. I think Texas is solid. I think Florida is solid. I think we're in good shape. The question is, are you guys in the Rust Belt, right? Are you guys in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin? Are you going to keep your wits about you? Or are you going to potentially allow yourselves to go back blue at some point? Be on guard. So think about, our good friends up there. All right. Ken says, I hope Governor Goodenough holds his ground and goes after the delinquent Democrats. I'm actually surprised that the House Speaker, Dustin Burrows, issued the arrest warrant. He's a weasel. Glad they're getting after him. I don't think you should be allowed to just flee the state and ignore your responsibilities. Paul makes another good point. Those that move need to realize why a state like Texas is so attractive. It's not because of democratic values. That is a good point. And I think that, take Elon Musk, take Joe Rogan, they're kind of bellwethers. Are they Republican or are they conservative? Not really. Elon Musk is not a conservative, but he's not a crazy liberal. And so I think a lot of people, what you have moving to Texas, I think some of them are hardcore Republican, conservative, and then a good number of them are just not crazy liberals. And I think you're going to be okay. Alan, we wish you were closer to us as well. One of these days, I want you to come to our Bible conference, and I want to meet you in person. Toby says, I think I already read that I'm near Texas and love Texas. Yeah, as an Oklahoman, I want Texas to do well. I don't want to have California on my back door. That's what I'd tell you that much. All right, so now that we've got some of the political discussion over with and done, let's go ahead and move on to some theology. I had an interesting email sent to me by Ken. So Ken, glad you're here, and now you can see me getting to it. And interesting discussion on dating the resurrection. Does dating the resurrection have, as far as determining which day of the week it all was, right, when it all happened? The crucifixion, the resurrection. Does all of this greatly affect our doctrine. As long as we affirm the resurrection happened, I don't think it's going to greatly affect our doctrine. At the same time, why not have a concise and clear position on every matter possible? That's my thoughts. I am not a fan at all of preachers saying, well, I guess we'll find out. Now, there are some things, and I'm going to tell you, I guess we'll find out. For example, where are we going to be in the millennium? I don't know, I guess we'll find out. What's going to happen when, I don't know, you have the 7 years of tribulation, and it says that the false prophet of the beast gives power to the image of the beast to speak, to deceive. You see some of that language in Revelation 13. What exactly does that mean? Are we talking television? Are we talking AI? What are we doing there? Or is it just supernatural? We're going to find out, because I can't tell you those things with certainty. But I think there are a number of things in the Bible that there is enough detail that we can at least dig into the information and try to get down to the bottom of things. And so the matter of the resurrection, or the timeline, when was Christ actually crucified, maybe even the question we're going to see here, when was the resurrection actually taking place? When did it occur? Those are things that we have some timeline given in the Gospels, some measurements, and so we can analyze them, and why not? Why not? Give me the man that studies all the things, and that's a man that has done his due diligence, and give me the man that says, well, I'm only worried about teaching Jesus, and that's a man that doesn't know up from down. So let's see. Ken says, good morning, gentlemen. Saturday morning while making breakfast. I like that detail. What were you cooking? This morning I had 3 slices of thick-cut Brahms bacon and 3 fried eggs and a glass of milk. I decided to catch up on some Ask the Theologian, from April 23rd. A question from the old curmudgeon came up about Luke 24:1, and the ladies coming to the sepulchre early in the morning on the first day of the week. I have heard and seen many timelines outlining the events of the crucifixion surrounding the premise of the 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Now, I think we all agree on Christ's death was at 3 p.m., but on which day of the week did this occur? I've always assumed that Matthew 12:40 referred to full days and nights, but the verse doesn't say that. Here's a timeline I came up with. All right, so you've got a timeline here, and I'm going to try to read it the absolute best way that I can, and I think it makes decent sense here. Let's go ahead and look at your timeline, Ken, and then we'll see what else that we may want to investigate. So, let's take the line 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth as, let's take it as it's often taken to be, that is, the heart of the earth is the tomb, okay? That's our assumption there. The heart of the earth means the tomb. Christ is dead. He is buried. I know some people may not even like that because they'll say, well, he wasn't buried. He was placed in a tomb. Okay, sure. I don't know. The tomb may have been a hole in the ground, though. I don't know what you think about that. But anyways, regardless. Let's go ahead and look at the timeline here that's laid out for us. And so, he's got, first of all, a Wednesday death occurring at 3 p.m. the first day, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. because, yes, the Hebrews do start the day, actually the evening, the day prior. So first day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the second day. And then you would have the second night being 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The third morning being 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then Friday the third night. So you would have the resurrection technically occurring at some point in what would be considered the Hebrew, span of night, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., as opposed to it being, the morning. But you do have 1 day, 1 night, 2 days, 2 nights, 3 days, 3 nights. That's an interesting proposal there. That does give you the literal 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth, which we are interpreting to be the tomb. Notice that I'm making that point there. Then you have another proposal happening on Thursday. Thursday, the first day at 3 p.m. So this would be the first night, the second night. And then you would have, once again, the Saturday resurrection technically taking place so that's Saturday to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm trying to make sure I understand. So when I see a Friday 6 a.m., this is 6 a.m. Friday to 6 p.m. Friday. This would be, by our timeline, our measurement, 6 p.m. Friday, 6 a.m. Saturday. 6 a.m. Saturday to 6 p.m. Saturday, 6 p.m. Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday. Am I reading that correctly? So technically this 6 a.m. here, while it is in the Hebrew one, trying to think though. Saturday starting at 6 a.m. This is where you may see me kind of do the other day when I thought the question was about a baptism on Thursday, but the question was, will you answer my baptism question on Thursday? So as I am reading and working through this here, the 6 a.m. here, so Ken, let me highlight this. The 6 a.m. here on Saturday, that is this the 6 a.m. that would actually be our 6 a.m. Saturday? Because we have 2 6 a.m. Saturdays here, right? So I'm taking this to be the 6 a.m. that's our Saturday. And this is the 6 a.m. that would technically be our Sunday. And that being the night. How am I doing so far, Ken? 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is daytime. Yes. I agree with you there. And so this would be the night, which would make this 6 a.m. here technically Sunday morning by our measurement of time. And the resurrection of Christ taking place early, what we would call Sunday morning, but they would consider but then again, but if our days are measured from evening to evening, so 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. is 1 day. This would be I'm working through it. I am trying. I really am. I'm trying to follow this this timeline along here. Let's start very simple. This is 3 p.m. on Thursday. This is 6 p.m. on Thursday. This is 6 a.m. Friday morning. The challenge is if I'm thinking about, and maybe I'm completely mixed up here, but if the days for the Hebrew calendar are counted evening to evening. Evening to evening. It's almost am I trying to, are you going by, when we're looking at days here, are we going by just our regular daytime and you're just focused on night and day? Is that how I need to read this? Because I was almost trying to read it in the Hebrew sense. So I think I just need to quit trying to look at the Hebrew sense of the word and just focus on what you have written down here. I think that's what I need to do. So if that's the case, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, and then where I'm confused is, how do we have two 6 a.m.s? Unless this is a Sunday morning. Because if we start the day at 3 p.m. on Thursday, then we're working through this together. This is a team effort for all of you. If we start out 3 p.m. on Thursday, by the time we make it to 6 p.m., this is Friday morning. Or 6 a.m., this is Friday morning. This is Friday evening. This brings us to Saturday morning. This gets us to Saturday evening. This gets us to Sunday morning. So this one, what I'm trying to ask is, these here, this would always have us going to Monday though. This one here would have us having the first of the week resurrection. This one doesn't. This one has us on a Saturday morning resurrection. That's 6 a.m., right? If I'm reading this correct, Ken, that's a Saturday, technically. Because we already had our 6 a.m. for Friday. So the resurrection would actually be here on a Saturday morning. This is a Sunday morning. This one is a Monday morning. Or am I completely confused and off base? Yep, 6A. Yeah, okay. I've already read that part. Ken's either typing a very detailed message, or he's thinking, Mark, you're overcomplicating this. What's wrong with you? The reason why is in the email, we do have to work with this verse concerning Luke 24:1. So if we go to Luke 24:1, it says, and upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them, and they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. If it's the first day of the week, this is already being counted as, this is yeah, this would be Sunday morning. So the very first, I don't see how we are going to, whatever resurrection timeline we have, it's going to have to be, I think, the first day of the week. I just don't see any other one. If we go to Matthew what's Matthew's testimony? Matthew 28. And the end of the Sabbath, it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. Now, if we're trying to argue possibly Jewish timeline, which is why we may have all gotten really confused, but I was trying to make a point, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, maybe you could argue, well, the resurrection technically was Saturday, or well, technically it was the first day of the week, but it was the nighttime of the first day of the week, because the day starts in the evening and ends before evening the next day. So it's basically it's sunset to sunset. That is a measurement of a day for the Hebrew calendar. It's not just as straightforward. That's my point. Like when we're talking about the timeline of resurrection and measuring days, you have to think not only in our minds how we count days from midnight to midnight. They count sunset to sunset. So this could be absolutely a resurrection on the first day of the week, but it could have been a Sunday, technically night, because it would have been prior to the sunrise when the resurrection technically took place. Maybe it occurred at 5:30 a.m. Sunday morning. All right? So technically you wouldn't count the day of Jesus being in the heart of the earth. What you would need is you would need 3 nights, which you would have gotten Sunday night, but then you would need an extra day, right, for the 3 days. So you would need Saturday, Friday, and Thursday. You would need a crucifixion on Thursday to get your 3 days and 3 nights. The issue is, Ken, I don't know that we count the first day of the week as starting at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, because Sabbath starts Friday evening and ends Saturday evening, right? If we go, so I think that's biblical. I don't think this is something that just modern Judaism started. I think we can find it biblically. And even if we... Because one of the interesting things, and I think they probably get it from Genesis. If we go to Genesis 1:1, or probably it needs to be like Genesis 1:4. Verse 5 says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So you have the evening, and then you have the morning. Sunset, sunrise. There's your first day. Evening and morning were the first day. And then, when the next evening comes, that's the beginning of the second day, because when we get here, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So the daylight and the evening prior, that is your daytime. The evening and the daylight after that is your second day. So we have to rewire our minds there if we're going to be measuring it. Deve Sprava says, is Matthew 28:1. Yeah, at the end of the Sabbath, in the end of the Sabbath as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Now that's an interesting statement there, in the end of the Sabbath as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Does it mean in the end of the Sabbath, or is this just prepositionally? The Sabbath is now over. Because technically, what are you in? You're in the end of the Sabbath. The Sabbath day is done at this point. In the end of the Sabbath. That's what it seems to be saying to me. Day. I don't have the full Greek there. But in the end of the Sabbath. Do you read that as, well, it was the very closing time of the Sabbath? The issue is, I think you would probably have to say, if the Sabbath was starting to end but not quite ended, because it's the very end, maybe it's the final seconds of the Sabbath. Why is Mary Magdalene and the other Mary going to the sepulchre? Sounds like they're doing something on Sabbath. And it says that it began to dawn toward the first day. I don't know that Matthew 28:1 is enough to argue, well, we're counting days differently now. The end of the Sabbath clearly means that Sabbath carried on until the morning. Everything I think you're going to find in Scripture, and even here's one, for example. If we were to go to, let me do a search here really quickly. If we go to the Gospels, I think it's in John. No. Maybe Luke. Luke chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast, and I don't know if maybe this isn't going to tell us anything at all. Now the feast of the unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12. And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them. Verse 7, Then it came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And I think every indicator would be that the Passover meal is eaten the evening before the Sabbath. If we were to go back to Exodus and we read the testimony there, here it is. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month shall they take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So they kill it in the evening, and then they shall eat the flesh of it in that night. It would have to be that they can't eat it the next day. They'll let nothing of it remain until the morning. And then that which remaineth of it in the morning ye shall burn with fire. It would have to be eaten in the evening. It couldn't be eaten the next day. So if we're going with Friday evening, that's when they would have eaten the Passover meal. I think what you're going to have to say is, if I'm looking at your timelines that you have here, if we are going to say the heart of the earth is 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, this is your only option here. This one right here. And what you would have is you would have Jesus being crucified Thursday, the day before the Passover meal. Well, technically, this would be 2 days before the Passover meal by the Jewish calendar, because this was in the afternoon of the previous day. This one, you have the resurrection being on a Monday morning, because this 6 a.m. Sunday is actually, by the way we're measuring things, Monday morning, the second day of the week. If we are going to say 3 days and 3 nights, and the resurrection is Sunday morning, you would need Sunday night, Saturday night, Friday night, Thursday night, which means you would need a crucifixion on Thursday, because otherwise you don't have enough days, because all you would have is Friday and Saturday. So you would need a day to be placed on Thursday. Do you see how this is not just such a plain and simple discussion on dating the resurrection? Luke says the issue that many make with the resurrection week is failing to note that there was also a high Sabbath because of Passover, in addition to the weekly Sabbath, the week of the resurrection. So if Friday would have been the high Sabbath, then you could argue that you've got the Saturday morning resurrection. The issue is, though, it says the first day of the week. So I don't know if the high Sabbath changes that. Luke says, speaking of Luke, when you look at Luke 24:13 through 21, the fellows on the road to Emmaus say that today is the third day since these things were done. So Sunday is the third day since these things happened. If you count back, it would have to be a Thursday crucifixion. Let me read that passage, and then let me give you my thoughts on it. And let's see. Here's this, okay. And it came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said unto them, What seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. And they remembered his words. And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs, and they talked together about all these things which had happened. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel, and beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Here's a question I have. Is the countdown, and I want you to think about this, because maybe I'm wrong in my thinking. Is the countdown starting with Jesus' death and his burial? Or does the countdown start with the arrest? If we go back and we read Luke again, verse 7, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men. When was he delivered into the hands of sinful men? It really wasn't, Friday morning. It would have been Friday night. Or sorry, it would have been Friday night. So, it's not, if we're starting with him being delivered in the hands of sinful men, and be crucified and the third day rise again, the third day from what? The crucifixion? Or the third day from when he is delivered into the hands of sinful men? By doing that, we pick up a night. Because in the nighttime, he is handed over to sinful men. When he is delivered into the hands of sinful men, on the third day he will rise again from that. Now, maybe you say, no, that's about the crucifixion. Maybe, but do you see at least my logic arguing here from, hey, what's happening? The Son of Man will be delivered. The third day, after these things begin, he'll rise again. So what does that give us? That gives us the night of Friday. Instead of us starting on the day of Friday, we now get the night of Friday. Then we get the day of Friday. All right, let's do so here's night and day. The night of Friday, the day of Friday. He was delivered into the hands of sinful men Friday night. We've got 3 days for him to rise again. Then we have Saturday night, beginning Friday evening. Are we confused yet? We have Saturday during the day. We get Saturday night, or hold on, let me say it one more time. We have Friday night, Friday. Then Friday goes to Saturday night because the day starts at nighttime. Saturday. Then we get Sunday night. We have 3 nights, we have 2 days, and at the third day, do I get to count that? I don't know. You tell me. But on the third day, he rises again at the beginning of the third day. It says there in the third day, rise again. When does he rise? He doesn't rise on the, if we go back to Luke 24:1, very early in the morning, but it was the first day of the week. The day was starting. It was the morning, but it was still the morning nonetheless. You have the resurrection, the stone rolled away. Possibly. Anybody find a major issue with my logic? So I'm looking at Luke's point here. So a couple things. 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale, Mark 12:40. Or sorry, Matthew 12:40. Yes, now Matthew 12:40 absolutely says that. 3 days and 3 nights. For as Jonas was in the day, or was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Now we have 2 options. Either we say that the heart of the earth is the tomb, and I don't know if you're going to find it there. If you want to say the heart of the earth is maybe paradise, Abraham's bosom, maybe you could argue that. But what if the heart of the earth is, Dr. Weiss proposed this before, what if the heart of the earth is actually maybe Jerusalem itself? Here's one passage to consider. Thus saith the Lord God, this is Jerusalem. I have set it in the midst of the nations and the countries that are round about her. If we look at the word there, in the midst, I'm not seeing the word there that I'm wanting to see. I don't know why. If we go over to Blue Letter Bible, though, and we go to Ezekiel 5:5, I have set it in the midst, Tavet, or no, it's Gimel. Anyways, Tavek. Look at here's Blue Letter Bible's outline of this word. In the midst of the nations. The midst, the middle. In midst is the most common word, amongst. I would probably say that if you're going to give in the Bible any city, any location on the surface of the earth that would be considered the middle of the earth, the heart of the earth, what have you. It's going to have to be Jerusalem. If that's the case and he is resurrected on Sunday morning and he is in the heart of the earth for that day, is that how you get your third day? Because we have 3 nights. If you take my position, you get your 3 nights very easy. And then you have that third day, which would be on the Sabbath, or sorry, on the first day of the week. With that being said, there's a reason why all this is so, it goes around and around and around and around and around. I will say, those that point out the high Sabbath, the only challenge is I think you've still got to deal with Luke 24:1, that the resurrection was on the first day of the week. That's a tough one to get around. But I would say maybe it could help us, instead of us starting the countdown at the crucifixion, maybe starting the countdown at when the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinful man, or delivered into the hands of sinful men. One of these days, when I'm an old, bald-headed preacher, blabbering on and on about music being immoral, that's a little fun jab at Dr. White. He's doing an interesting study on the morality of music right now. Maybe I'm going to have you a clear, concise statement on the matter. So far today, we've done a whole lot of thinking and pondering. If somebody, Luke or whoever, has a good outline for the high Sabbath argument and how it still works with a resurrection on the first day of the week, because I don't think that you can get around Luke 24:1. Now, maybe there's something there that I'm overlooking. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Just let me know, because I'm all for it. I like people thinking for themselves. And the truth is, let's just say, and I think Luke's position maybe is even, and there's some other positions kind of like what Ken outlined here, that maybe Sunday morning wasn't the resurrection, which once again I have a hard time with. But the thing is, the day of the resurrection, I would say, and then the crucifixion as well, those are not foundational to our faith. It is that the death and the resurrection happened. And so, if we want to have some biblical debate and discussion, Luke says the high Sabbath is helpful when considering John 19:31 for crucifixion, not the resurrection. I believe in a Sunday resurrection. Okay, so that's got you, Luke. John 19:31. I think Christianity is so boring when you don't have people who have different opinions. That's the great thing about right dividers. We agree on enough to enjoy fellowship, but yes, also we're still so independent-minded that we will have fun debating and discussing these more minute things. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for the Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. Yeah, the crucifixion being on a day a little bit before Friday to get our timeline there. I'll keep working on it. I like my ideas because they're my ideas. So I still wouldn't just say the heart of the earth makes you have to say it's the tomb. I think you have to, you've got to be indoctrinated, I think, with the idea of that automatically being the tomb. which we all are, indoctrinated with it. Now, maybe that's correct. Maybe the understanding the heart of the earth is the tomb, maybe that's the proper way to approach it. So, I like it. We'll keep wrestling with it. Ken, I hope I gave you some things to think about. The way that the Hebrews count days and nights is something worth looking into, though, because it can change a little bit how many nights you come up with, and days can be affected as well. At the end of the day, we all agree that it did happen, and that's how you and I are saved today, by Christ's death and resurrection from the tomb, and so I enjoy it. That was a lot of fun today. Tomorrow, like I said, probably a little bit of a different show. We're going to be having Jake Merrick on, gubernatorial candidate for the state of Oklahoma. I think he's a really interesting guy, has some very good ideas about government, and I hope that you'll join us tomorrow as we continue to defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship, and we cover everything. We'll talk about Texas redrawing districts, and then we'll spend 40 minutes counting on our fingers the days of the resurrection, because, hey, we care about it all, and that's why we'll continue to study here at Shields and Arrows. We are not stopping anytime soon. Thank you all for supporting the ministry. We will see you all tomorrow.